All right. Welcome, everybody. Egge, thanks a lot for joining us on another Meet the Maker session. Typically in these conversations, they are all about sharing experiences and information about building on, designing, and contributing to Bitcoin and Lightning. And that's why we invite developers, designers, content creators, anyone who is basically a maker. But also we invite any listener to ask questions so that we have a rather interactive session here. Because after all, it's a great chance to learn from each other, and especially here in this case, to learn from Egge. I'm really happy that you are with us here on this show today. Egge is co-founder of Starbacker. Starbacker is a content monetization platform that is powered by Bitcoin and Lightning, and I guess he can share a lot what they are doing there, what challenges they face, and also how do they solve these challenges. But maybe for the beginning, Egge, can you tell us a bit about your background and like your first touch points when it comes to Bitcoin and Lightning?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Um, yeah, as you said, I'm co-founder of Starbacker, but my journey into the Bitcoin realm started a little earlier. Actually, I'm not part of the space for too long. It's about we're approaching 2 years now, so I'm quite the youngster in the Bitcoin space, I'd say. Um, the first touch points with Bitcoin actually were, I think, Elon Musk and with Tesla going into Bitcoin. That was my first touch point. I'm really not too proud of it, but that's how I got interested in the whole thing. First of all, I've read about Bitcoin a lot before, but I never actually looked into it too much. And when Tesla and Musk, or when there was news about Tesla and Musk, I started looking into it first a little deeper. And that's when I encountered some people from the German community, Block Trainer, or like some communities from the German community, let's say Block Trainer and 21, which then reeled me in like really badly. And since then, I think it was about March 21, probably. I've not been doing much else in my private time than just like doing Bitcoin stuff, reading, and also co-founding Starbacker, obviously. So before I got into Bitcoin, I was doing digital advertisement, not actually the advertisement itself, but the marketing behind it and the whole sales process behind web advertisement. So I am not a developer, but ever since I was a little child, had a lot of exposure to like computers and internet stuff, and HTML and CSS was something that I've always encountered when working with publishers and monetizing their web pages. But I've never like gone that route to the full extent. But obviously that helped me a lot, like encountering Bitcoin and like at least on a conceptual level, understanding the protocol and what awesome stuff can be built with it.
Cool. Cool. And you mentioned 21. Can you tell us a bit about like what's it about and what role did this community play in your like knowledge when it comes to Bitcoin and Lightning?
Yeah, so 21 is one of the biggest, maybe even the biggest German Bitcoin only community. Um, 21 is actually the German word for 21. Um, and it is, as I said, it is a community, but there's also like a podcast they do, and they have a YouTube channel where they give the community the opportunity to contribute knowledge to the whole space. And it's really about um, an entertaining way of learning stuff. So it's really hard to describe because it's a collective and there's no central plan what 21 really is, but there's let's say there's just a lot of people that are very interested in Bitcoin that will do awesome stuff, that will contribute by like translating articles about Bitcoin from English to German and post it there. There's people, as I said, they're hosting a podcast. I'm still co-host of the podcast, but to be fair, I have been not very active over the last couple of months in the podcast, but I used to. There's this YouTube channel where everyone can contribute by just posting or just uploading a video about setting up a Bitcoin wallet or setting up a Bitcoin node. So it's really a community that enforces that idea of like the circular knowledge economy a little bit, and like passing around knowledge about Bitcoin. And what 21 also is it's actually an association that people can donate to, and 21 will make sure to to redistribute money that they received as an association to other Bitcoin projects of the space, to bring more adoption to Europe and also other countries, obviously, but focusing on the German speaking region a little bit. Yeah, so as I said, really hard to define, but definitely an awesome project and the perfect community. And for me, 21 played a vital role in actually becoming where, or like getting where I am today, because I encountered a block trainer who's like a Bitcoin educator on YouTube. And block trainer tends to not go too deeply into all the topics and just like skims through them a little bit, because they want to like make sure that it's still understandable for a lot of people, while 21 goes very deep into different topics, especially economic topics. And when I got into Bitcoin, I was very like this close to becoming like a Bcasher, and thinking big blocks would be the solutions to all of our problems. And then I encountered 21 and actually got people, and it was the first time that I didn't only read stuff, but also was able to talk to people and actually have a conversation about Bitcoin and why the things that I thought would be valid are not valid at all. So I was this close to actually becoming a big blocker, but then I encountered people that were there to help me to understand things more fully, let's say. And that's why I'm here today.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks to them then that you basically
Yes, very
stayed
thankful.
in the Bitcoin community. So, but how did it then go? How can you describe a bit like the step from being involved contributing to the 21 community, then to Starbacker, where you're working right now?
Yeah, so 21 was the beginning of my more professional Bitcoin life, you could say. 21 obviously, as I said, is a very like loose collective, and there's no real roles. Like it's very chill. But it was the first time that I actually had something to do in the Bitcoin space, which was co-hosting the podcast. So I was on the episodes talking about Bitcoin, and it obviously a podcast is not a job, but it feels a little bit like a job. So then I realized that I really wanted to spend more of my professional time doing Bitcoin stuff. As I said, I like my free time was mostly Bitcoin anyways, but I wanted to do stuff on Bitcoin as well. But it wasn't the thought wasn't done yet. So I didn't try to find a Bitcoin job actively, right? I was just thinking about it and thinking that it would be fun to do something. And also I started learning to code at the same time. Like, as I said, I'm not a developer, but ever since I got into Bitcoin, I started to code like very easy things, some React and some Python. And that was the first time I actually started writing my own code. And then it was a coincidence, I would say, because I was sat in a Telegram chat with some people discussing the Lightning Network. This was not 21, this was a English speaking community. And then the whole thing around some social networks started. Like the discussion revolved around social networks banning content, censoring creators, and everything. And someone said, "Hey, why has no one built this on Lightning yet?" Right? And that's when I was, yeah. When I sat there in the chat, I was like, "Yeah, we should build this, right? We should definitely go ahead and build something like that on Lightning, something that allows content creators to monetize content on Lightning, because it's just such a natural thing for Lightning to solve." And we were really wondering why no one has done it yet. So there wasn't really some steps that led from 21 to Starbacker. It was, as I said, a real coincidence. But Starbacker primed me for founding something, and made me want to move into a more professional direction with my Bitcoin hobby, let's say.
Cool. And so now you're working. Yeah, you're co-founder of Starbacker. And I'm curious, what's your vision with Starbacker, and how do you use Bitcoin and Lightning to make that that vision reality?
The vision is a very broad one. the initial mission that we had for Starbuck was to empower content creators, but obviously that's something that's saying a lot, right? With Starbuck and with the Lightning Network behind it, we for the first time ever have the possibility for companies to actually do payment transaction or like payment processing themselves, which opens up a lot of possibilities, right? That's the bottleneck of legacy internet is the payment processing, at least in our minds, because whenever you have to rely on a payment processor to handle your payments, and you obviously the payments are the thing that funds your business at some point, you will always have to bow to whatever they say, right? Whatever they say is right, you have to do. And thanks to Bitcoin, people can now in the digital realm handle payments themselves. And obviously, on-chain Bitcoin is not meant to scale, right? It's not built to scale, so that's why we have Lightning. And by implementing Lightning in a social media platform, we can, for the first time ever, facilitate payments between all users without having that big overhead of a payment processor, or like just having all that friction that come with legacy payments. Vision wise, as I said, it's quite hard to define, but we want to build on top of what we have already, so that monetization aspect should always be part of the network. But we want to move to a lot more things in the future as well, like the decentralizing content more. It should be the liberation of social media, whatever that means, right? There's so many different aspects that we will solve, or that we try to solve in the future. And I think the most easiest way to say it is whatever has been a bottleneck, or whatever has been limiting content creators in the past and legacy networks, we want to try to solve that. And the two things that are those for right now that we see is centralization of content and monetization of content.
Yeah, that's quite an exciting vision, I think. And a decentralized payment network that is also that's serves basically as a native payment network for the internet makes so much sense for digital content. So if I'm a user of Starbreaker today, what can I do today on the platform? How can I, monetize my content?
Yeah, so there's different things. First of all, we have the normal set of content on the platform, right? So you can go ahead and post a picture, you can post a video, and now you can even host a live stream as well on the platform. And now there's different ways you can decide to monetize your content, because we don't want to force the user in a category or in a way to do it. So there's some people that really like the idea of value for value, right? So they want to give content out for free and ask for value back. For those, and actually this is an update that went live yesterday, we try to build native value for value monetization features. So for example, yesterday, actually, as I said, we pushed an update, and it's quite groundbreaking. So just gonna outline really quickly what we did. We removed the like button, which is something which sounds a little bit counterintuitive for a social network, right? We don't have any likes, but instead of likes, we now have zaps, and zaps are similar to like. It's a user interaction. You can go ahead and zap a post instead of liking it, but instead of just iterating one number and just counting up one number, which is quite meaningless, it's actually a 5-cent payment, 5 US cent payment to the creator, right? So now people that want to monetize through value for value can post content and ask the people to zap their posts, and for every zap they get on the post, they will actually receive 5 cents in the wallet. So it's not only a much stronger signal of value, because as I said, the like has become a little meaningless, right? I can even go ahead and buy like 1,000 likes for my latest Twitter post for, I think, a couple of bucks probably. The zap is a much stronger signal of value, but it's also giving something back to the creator. So that's one way of monetizing, through likes, or the zaps, how we call them now. The other thing that we offer is pay-gated content. So you can decide to not go the value for value round, and instead have exclusive content that might only be available on Starbreaker, and that is only available to people that subscribe to you by paying a monthly fee, for example. A great example of this is the German podcast Bitcoin Effect, which is a business-related podcast, and they, since a few days, have like a Starbreaker account where they pre-release all recorded episodes a couple of days prior to the public release. and also post behind the scenes of the editing process and the whole like process behind the production of the podcast, which is only available to people that subscribe to their channel. So they try to monetize their podcast a little bit using Starbacker. So those are the two main ways I'd say you can monetize on Starbacker. One is the pay gate content, and one is the donation-based value for value.
And then you also, for adopting Bitcoin, you also released a streaming feature, right?
Yeah. So the live streaming feature, it's quite similar to what people are maybe used to from YouTube or Twitch. So you can just you can either go live directly from your web browser and just stream your webcam if your device has one, or you can go ahead and connect like a third-party application like OBS, for example, and go ahead and stream on Starbacker. People can come into the live stream, chat with you, and even leave a donation if they want to. We're working on finding out how we can combine for now there's only the pay gate, right? You can ask for donations in the stream, but if you want to have a paid stream, the only way that we do it right now is that you have to pay upfront in order to get into the stream. But there's a lot of potential for different features, leveraging the micropayment side of the Lightning Network as well, in order to, for example, ask the user for a payment every minute, right? And if they don't pay the minute they get thrown out of the live stream or something. So there's a lot of potential that we see with the live content for Lightning Network monetization integrations that we have. But we need to figure out what the right way of implementing those will be in the future. Because what we really try to solve with the live stream content is the same thing that Value for Value tries to solve, right? It's really frustrating to pay $5 for something and only then get to see if it's really worth the value. So we always try to find ways, like newer and modern ways to give teasers to the user to actually make sure that there's really value behind something, and then pay the pay gate, for example.
Yeah, I think these are super cool features because they, on the one hand side, these are features for monetization, but these are also features from a Starbacker point of view for user engagement, right? If you give people the chance to upvote in the form of payments, this could drive also engagement because people motivate others to please upvote, please come here, support me if you like that. And I'm curious, why did you make this, or is this a set amount of 5 cents that people pay for these SAPs? And how did you come up with this amount, and why don't you leave that flexible to the user?
So right now it's a fixed amount. The reason why we didn't leave it up to the user, right? First of all, we wanted to make the UX very simple, right? We wanted to make it frictionless, and we had a send tip button for forever. Like ever since we have the platform, we had that send tip button, and actually people didn't use it too much. And obviously it just doesn't feel as good if you have to go to a post and click send tip, then put in a value, then click send, right? It's a little bit friction. The idea is in the end to still give the user the flexibility to choose another amount if they really want to, but have the frictionless payment for now. And to be honest, the 5 cents is what we came up with for now, and we're not 100% sure that this will never change. It is just the value that we felt like is high enough to actually be a little pain for the user, because that's really important when adding value to something, right? For example, if it would have been 5 sats instead of cents, I would still go to Starbacker and mindlessly zap all the posts because, right, 2,000 sats gone, I don't really care. But if it's 5 cents, I might start to think about the interaction a little bit more, and it will make the interaction worthy and scarce. So we will have to figure it out, to be honest, right? I think what Starbacker always has been is a platform that really relies on user feedback to make it better, because we don't want to develop a platform that we think is good, but we want to develop a platform that the user thinks is good. So if it turns out that the interaction is a little bit too low because the cost that we associated with interaction was just too high, then we're going to change it. something that is worth mentioning as well is that for now, just to give people the option to get started with Zaps, Starbucker is actually paying the first 5 Zaps for you every day. So you can go to the platform and zap a creators post 5 times a day, and we pay those 5 Zaps. So the first 5 Zaps of the day are free for now. So actually, it's a little bit. I always like to compare it to the weird Amazon Prime Twitch thing. Then when you have Amazon Prime and you are on Twitch, you get a subscription for free every month. So you can decide which creator to give your subscription to. So now you talked about like increasing interaction, right? So now the creator knows that every single user has 5 free Zaps every day. Obviously, there's a big incentive for the creator to come to their user base and be like, hey, by the way, you get 25 cents of donations every day for free. Please come to my profile and give them to me instead of others. So that's the idea. But again, it's something that we will iterate over in the future, and that we just need to see what the feedback from the users and the creators actually is, and we will try to adjust if it needs adjustment.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will definitely follow that. That's I think it's an important learning to see. It's always this constraint between like a better UX versus more flexibility, what would need more settings basically by the user, but that would then also require more clicks, and then at the cost goes out again on the cost of UX.
And that's a big topic in the Lightning Network in general, right? I feel like that's one of the main challenges that we have encountered ever since we started out this project, is always UX versus customizability, let's say. And like, for example, when we started out, the whole platform was basically non-custodial, right? And today the platform is full custodial. And to be honest, like, I would like the platform to go exactly to develop exactly the other direction, right? To become more and more non-custodial by time. But the reason we did this is when we started out, when you logged into Starbucker, you had to link a Bitcoin wallet, a third-party Bitcoin wallet, right? A Lightning wallet. And because we didn't have a custodial wallet on the platform, you had to link some other wallet. And now people would sign on the platform, and the first thing they would have to do is set up their account and their wallet before they can actually start to monetize. And then with Lightning being built the way it is today, it's not really easy to link a third-party wallet, right? So if you don't, like, we will always need some API to actually get an invoice, which has been the most frustrating thing for us, obviously, for a long time. So we gave the users the ability to give us an API endpoint to fetch invoices from their wallet directly, instead of having their wallet on the platform. In the end, people just use, there's only a handful of wallets that actually support this, right? There's Bitcoin Beach wallet, for example, or Strike wallet that have an API. Basically, every wallet that has LNURL withdraw will be able to facilitate that thing that comes with a Lightning address. I mean, Alby, for example, comes with a Lightning address as well, so Alby would work as well. But when we started out, like 1 year ago, there wasn't actually too much wallets having that, right? So it turned out that even though we decided the platform to become non-custodial, what we forced the user to do is download a third-party custodial app and being custodial again. So then we decided to move it all into one platform and have a wallet hosted by us so now you can sign up to the platform, you can post right from the get-go, and you can monetize right from the get-go, because the money will flow into your Starbucker wallet first. Then you can withdraw to a custodial wallet, non-custodial wallet, if you want to.
Yeah. At the end, so you are also quite innovative when it comes to integrating Lightning technologies or protocols, higher level protocols, when it comes to LNURL auth, for example, or WebLN. What was the motivation behind that?
I think everyone, it might be a little hard, but I think everyone that doesn't do it is not too smart about it. Because the awesome thing about the Lightning and Bitcoin industry is that there's so much innovative and smart people in here, and there's the stuff that's being developed is helpful to everyone, right? And we want to make sure that Starbucker is not only a place to monetize content, but also a place for people to test out what this infrastructure and the whole ecosystem has to offer. And I mean, always the user always wins, right? And when you integrate more stuff, people don't have to use Alan URL auth, or people don't have to use slash text. But if someone wants to use it, then it's fine. The way WebLN is able to integrate side to side next to the normal QR code workflow is just so frictionless. The user that doesn't know about WebLN won't even notice it, but a user that has a WebLN provider will have a much better experience using the site. So I think leveraging all the tools that are available is something that is beneficial to everyone. And to be honest, most of the time integration work isn't too difficult, right? Taking WebLN as an example, it's like even I build, and I said I'm not a developer, but even I build web apps using WebLN and started doing like little payment things there. It's just awesome technology. So and we will continue doing that as well, right? There is so much more potential in slash text, for example. Now Noster coming up, there's a ton of things that will come. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but over the next couple of weeks, there's a lot of stuff Noster related coming to Starbucker as well. And actually, you cannot build everything yourself. And I think everyone who has ever developed will know that there's a reason why some things are there as third-party library for you to implement into your code. Because if you would code everything yourself, you wouldn't do anything else but coding dependencies. So when those things are there already, leverage them and make everyone benefit.
Yeah, I saw that you once shared a what was it, a tutorial or just a demo of your WebLN project? Why did you start that? And can you tell us a bit about your learning journey throughout it?
Yeah, so first of all, because I'm very close to Starbucker product-wise in our development team, so it's always very helpful if I understand something that I want to implement, because then I can really have a good conversation with our development team in order, right? It's always very difficult if you're like, yeah, build that, and then the developer says, yeah, we cannot do it, and you don't understand why or whatever, right? So it really helps me make the flow a little better if I do understand things that I want in the product. So WebLN was one of those things that I didn't understand fully when I first encountered it. But as I said, I learned React over the last year and was developing a little bit on the side. And when I started to understand JavaScript syntax, I started to understand WebLN as well. So that was the minute when I started to realize that it's actually very easy to implement, and I wanted to play around with it, because I've been, for the German community, working on a website that plays audio tracks, right? In the German community, we have these rap guys called Plap Rap, and they do like German rap songs about Bitcoin. And they always had the problem that they didn't want to, they hosted their videos on YouTube or the songs on Spotify, but there wasn't any real open network for them to actually host the songs on, so everyone could listen in. And then I, as I said, started developing React, or started learning React and JavaScript, and I wanted some actual practice project to do something with, because if you're just following along someone else coding, you're not really learning anything, right? You need own challenges. So I wanted to build this website, and I actually built it as well. It's plaprap.space, which will let you tune into all of their songs and even give donations to them as well. But then I wanted to make something that is much closer to the podcast value for value feature, right? And it's very hard to do that in a web browser without using something like WebLN. Then I started learning React Native, because I thought maybe the best idea is to build it in a native application. And then I, as I said, encountered WebLN and was like, yeah, this is actually the thing that I need to build this. So that's why I started learning WebLN, and I'm really happy about that protocol, because it just makes so much. I definitely see myself in the web development area instead of building native applications. And we really need something like WebLN in order to build awesome web apps that are frictionless. So I think that's one of the reasons why I actually did that tutorial as well, because so many people are looking for like easy. I think I built two things. One was a tip donation button, right? And that's one of the most asked questions that I always see from the community is how can I have a tip button on my website when I don't have like a big backend, right? Or anything. And I think WebLN and also LNbits, those are the two things that I would recommend to anyone building like a web application on Lightning. Look into those two things, and you will be able, with just very small knowledge of coding, you will actually be able to build awesome apps.
Awesome. Yeah. We will make sure that these like all these product services that you just mentioned, that they are also part of the show notes.
Perfect.
So one personal question that I have, because I know your background is in marketing, and I always wonder, like, okay, I have an ad blocker installed. Why isn't there a possibility, for example, because now there are also websites, like news websites, that require you to switch off your ad blocker? Why isn't there a chance that I pay them with Bitcoin on Lightning, just, I don't know, like 1 cent, 2 cent, I don't know, like how much they would actually earn from the advertisers there on their page, so that I can access the website without advertisement actually, and I can keep my ad blocker switched on.
I think probably the biggest reason why there isn't something like this yet is because no one has built it. I think that's one of the reasons. Also, it's always difficult for like the marketing industry is an industry that's very slow moving. And like my favorite example of this is there is still a bunch of clients, and I'm not over exaggerating. There's like so many clients that will book IP2 location targeting for web advertisement. And everyone that knows how IP addresses work knows that, like, I think my IP address is located like 400 kilometers away from my home, right? So if someone tries to advertise their store using IP to location targeting, they would advertise for me, even though I'm not even close to the city they have their business in. And it's still something that a lot of clients will book. So advertising is something that's very, very slow moving and definitely not an innovative industry. So getting something like that implemented into the big market obviously is very difficult, especially with Bitcoin being at an adoption level where it currently is, right? Obviously, if you are a news website, like you just mentioned, there will only be a very, very tiny portion of people that would actually be able to facilitate the payment, because that's how it is right now, right? So, and that's true for all the Lightning projects, right? WebLN, for example, only works great because I know that the people visiting my site will have it installed. But if I'm a very big site and I want to use it, I would need to make sure that everyone like gets it at least. So I think that's one of the reasons why there isn't something like that yet. I still think that it's a big use case. I'm thinking about doing something like that myself, at least like conceptual wise. I've been thinking about the whole overlap between online advertisement and Lightning, and the ways that the things that we can build with it. I think, especially now that advertising is in this big groundbreaking change with third-party cookies going away, probably, who knows if they go away, but Google has been announcing it for like 4 years now that at some point they were going to discontinue third-party cookies. And this is something that like online advertising really relies on, because it makes people able to target you. Now with, I mean, we've talked about this before, Moritz. I know, I know, like with WebLN being able to like give out a signature or give out a public key to the website, and then the two of them interacting, it's really like the perfect unified identifier for everyone that wants to actually give it, and it's not something that can be taken from you without your consent as well. So there's just so much in there, and I'm really wondering why no one has built it yet. Probably because there's just not too much attention on that space. But now that I know that there's probably a lot of builders listening in here, someone really needs to build something around that.
Yes, that, I mean, that's all about it actually. These sessions here, I really hope also that someone picks it up. The challenge here, what I also see, is a bit like, who is the partner that you need to talk to enable this? Like, is it the publisher? Is it a ad block company?
Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. I didn't even think about that. Ad block companies might be interested in it as well. Um, but I think the most obvious one is the publisher, right? In order like, and that's true. Like they need to integrate those gates anyways, right? And right now there's, as you said, there's either disable ad block or like buy my premium thing, but the premium thing is a very friction thing. You would need to log in or sign up and put your credit card and blah blah blah. It's really not that easy. Then there's like other gates that will be like either you consent to advertisement or you're not able to view the site, or you either consent to advertisement or buy our product. So there's a lot of these gates, and I think an easy way would be or an easy gate that would allow you to have a no account payment basically is something that really would help a lot with, especially with Bitcoin publishers, right? There's so many Bitcoin publishers that have, or like Bitcoin related, maybe even crypto related, I don't know, publishers that have advertisements on their site, and they would obviously be very interested in something like that. I could imagine they would be very interested in that. Something as a challenge for everyone listening in, I feel is one of the biggest challenge that we need to figure out is how it actually integrates with the website's database, because the integration, I mean, like we have free Paygate integration. I think you build one, right, for WordPress as well. The Alby WordPress integration, I think, that will allow you to have a Paygate. That will allow you to have a Paygate on a WordPress article. The problem with a lot of these is, at least I think there is a problem, is that they are all like cookie based. And if I go to another device or another browser, or I'm very careful with my cookie settings, then I will lose access to that content piece after some time. So, and that's why I said the public key of a node or the public key of a wallet or whatever is the perfect identifier, because then a wallet could always re-authenticate, be like, hey, by the way, I've paid this already, you know my public key. But for that it would definitely have to have some backend database to keep track of all the public keys that have already purchased the content, right? But I think there's definitely a solution for that. There's definitely something in there that people could figure out. And if I mean, like, I would definitely put it on my side if I had one, if I had a content site. So yeah.
So meaning there would be actually even a first like test customer with you if someone
I
builds
would
that.
definitely test it.
Awesome, cool. So now we've learned like what you would like to work on in your spare time. What's next for Starbaker? What's on your roadmap?
Yeah, so I mean, like, what is spare time, right? No, but regarding Starbacker, there's a lot of awesome stuff coming. I mean, like, we really want to explore that economic signal that we've talked about, right? I mean, like, that's what we call it. We say replace algorithmic noise with economic signal. That's the catchphrase around the whole Zap integration, and removing and moving away from likes and attention as base metrics. And there's a lot more stuff in it than just the zaps. For example, we want to explore algorithms and content suggestions that rely on actual value transmitted to a post instead of attention and likes, right? If you go to YouTube, most of the algorithm, or one big metric for the algorithm of YouTube, is watch time. But the problem with watch time is that it can be so easily grabbed and faked, right? If I have a very clickbaity video on YouTube, for example, people will click on it. And if I say in the beginning of the video that in a minute I will talk about whatever they want to hear, right, they will stay a minute and watch my video. And that way I can really fake attention very, very easily. Value cannot be faked. Like economic value, if you have zaps that have a cost associated with them, those cannot be faked. So we really want to figure out how we can build content suggestions and feeds around that, and actually promote content to the user and suggest content to the user that has proven value to it. That's the one thing that we want to look at. Actually, there's three big things, and this is one of the things. The second thing is, and this is something that we have been like doing ever since we started out, is increasing UX and reducing the friction of the usage. And the big next step for us in the beginning of the next year is moving to a native mobile environment for that. Because having a native app is something that will allow us to do a lot of those things that we currently don't want to or cannot do in the browser. Obviously, it will just make the app feel a little more frictionless because the rendering and everything on a native environment is just a little smoother. But also there's a lot of stuff that we can build that actually can facilitate things like non-custodial wallets, right? Or further implementing the slash tags integration that we currently have, right? You can link your slash tag profile to your Starbucker account. But if you create a Starbucker account, you're not getting a slash tag profile because that would require us to actually roll your private keys, and we don't want to do that in the browser. So by moving into an app environment, we can actually build things like that. So that's the second step that we want to focus on. And the third step is something that I've briefly covered in the beginning, is that we want to move towards decentralization of content. This ties in with the mobile native environment because, as I said, things like private keys can be stored a little easier on the device compared to the browser, or a little safer, let's say. But with slash tags being integrated already, there's just so much stuff to build. Noster being around the corner. I know you have with Alby, you have a Noster integration as well. I haven't used it, to be honest, yet, but we really see big potential in that. So without spoiling too much what's ahead, there will be a read-only Noster integration very soon on Starbucker, that you can actually follow Noster public keys with your Starbucker account without actually Starbucker being a real Noster client, because it isn't yet. Hinting at what might come next year as well, but it isn't yet a Noster client. But we actually want to make the feeds from public keys available, and at some point Starbucker will have a Noster relay as well, and actually publish content to the Noster network, or the Noster protocol at least. So there's a lot of stuff coming in that direction. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, so those are the three things that are upcoming. And yeah, as I said, what's spare time, right? We have a lot of work to do, and we better start building.
Indeed. Yeah. You should use the time when there's not so much noise out there to be productive. And I mean, yeah, looking at your roadmap, you have quite some big plans. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Egge, yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. We are already 45 minutes in. I think we learned a lot about the 21 community, all the innovation that's happening on Starbacker, what your plans are with Noster, with decentralized content distribution and content discovery, also beyond pure attention-based search. Different technologies and protocol when it comes to WebLN, LNURL, and tools like LNBits that you recommend other developers to use when they start building on Bitcoin and Lightning. So yeah, the final question that I just have is like, yeah, where can people get in touch with you? How can they find you when they have any questions about Starbacker and your journey as a developer?
There's two easy ways to get in touch with me. One is just sending me a DM on Twitter. Actually, I have my DMs open. Now that I say it, I'm not too sure anymore, but maybe you can send me a DM of Twitter. If you can't send me a DM of Twitter, you can get in touch with me via email. It's just egge@starbacker.com. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Or if you have any feedback, we really love, as I said, we really need user feedback as well. So if you tried out Starbucker and have some feedback, please send me an email. I'm very happy to read it. And if you have any questions, just reach out.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's it. Basically, thanks a lot to you and all the listeners. If you like this conversation, feel free to share it, comment below, and let us know what future episodes you would like to see. Yeah, and don't hesitate to get in touch. would be cool to see you next time again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Bye.